Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. We're going to talk about something quite interesting, and maybe it's something if all of us have considered, maybe not done it, maybe some of you have done it, but we're going to talk about home automation. And to talk about that, we have Nikhil Rajpal, who's CEO of Hero Electronix, which has a wonderful brand called Qubo. So Nikhil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. Excited to be part of this.
So for the benefit of our listeners, Nikhil, could you just explain? Hero is a brand everybody knows, but Qubo is a new brand. I'm aware of what you guys do, but for the benefit of the listeners, if you could just tell us what all Qubo is sort of entering into, has already been in.
Yeah. So I think you introduced us right. We're part of the Hero Group. It's a company founded by Hero, but run by a young founding team. Right. I think the way we think of ourselves is a smart devices company. And of course, the first space we've largely operated in is the home. It's a smart home. But the way we approach our life is every product we know, whether it's a watch or a TV, is changing, is being reimagined, getting smarter, right? But a lot of the gadgets or the appliances in our home, whether it's a lock or a doorbell or a fridge, is not changing much. So that's what we're trying to change, create smarter devices which do more for you with technology embedded in them. And so far in our 4-year journey, we've probably launched 20 plus devices for the home as well as for the car. So things like smart locks, smart doorbells, cameras, dash cams, etc.
So compared to the rest of the world, let's say talk about Europe and primarily US, which have a lot of these devices, and the adoption is very high. So much so that one of the most used apps on Apple is the Apple Home device, the Home app. Same with Google, because they just Apple and Google itself are integrated with so many devices. But India is still not there yet. So do you think it is just a matter of time before this kind of adoption happens? And adoption at an ecosystem level, but I'm sure that all of us have some devices that can be are connected to an app, can be controlled from wherever you have. I have, for instance, an air purifier, a perfume dispenser, of all things. So we all have, but we are not looking at it holistically as how does it work in a connected home kind of a scenario, which is where I think we are a little bit behind. So how would you think about this? Are we there? Are we getting there?
That's a very good observation. I think just from a data perspective, right? We have less than 1 or 2% penetration of smart devices. So if you look at the number of locks being sold, doorbells being sold, the cameras being sold, the smart percentage is less than 1%. In markets like US or actually Korea is probably the most advanced. You're looking at 30%, right? So I think it's not that Indians don't like technology, I think, or we don't understand technology. Those days are gone. We all have smartphones, internet access. I think the question is, we didn't have products which are relevant for India at price points which make sense for India. Okay? So yes, there's a Nest in the US and Ring in the US or Samsung, but they're, first the price points are very high. They haven't solved for Indian environment. Our houses are not made of wood, they're made of concrete. So Wi-Fi performance is different, right? We don't live alone. We don't care about packages, right? Outside the door. We always have a neighbor. We worry about babies with maids, right? So it's really about have people build smart devices to solve problems which we care about and at price points we're willing to pay. Because we'll pay, but Indians will pay, right? We all buy all kinds of stuff, but we have to see value in it. So I think the gap really of adoption was this issue. And as people like Qubo and others are solving it, we're seeing a massive inflection point. Right? Our sales are tripling every year, growing 15% every month. So the adoption is there. Clearly, as awareness is not there still, but the people, it's the intent is always there.
So it is interesting that you spoke about Korea, and when you said smart and Korea together, the one thing that came to my mind was smart toilets, and I think that's a problem the Indians also need to solve. I think Japan and Korea have done it so well, but again, the fact that we really don't have a lot of the problems that need to be solved. That's quite interesting. But are we looking at very essentially Indian problems which can be solved with connected devices, for instance? And if you could give us a few examples of where that kind of innovation is happening.
Yeah, I think, finally, let me say this way. Uh, Living as devices get smarter, life does get easier, and that's true everywhere. So I live in a family. If you have a smart lock, okay, you don't have to carry keys. You don't have to step out of the house. That value is consistent across the world, right? But how the Indian house is different is, for example, in India, we are multi-generation homes. So one thing we have to solve for is, a lot of the smart locks have fingerprint sensors. Now I live with my dad. He's 75. With age, your fingerprints fade, and they don't work. So you have to workarounds. Are there other backup options, right? Yeah. So I think the question was how, it's a good question around how the Indian households are different and what are we solving for, right? I think, look, the need for smart products, the basic things are the same. Living with a smart lock, not having to carry keys is great everywhere in the world, right? But I think how India is different is we live in, for one example, we live in multi-generational households, right? So, we care less about packages outside the door and package detection, and more about if we leave with our kids at home with the maid, is the maid being nice to the kid? So one of the things we did in a baby camera, we built an AI algorithm which can detect if a baby is crying. So you will literally get an alert if the baby is home alone with somebody and the baby is crying. You don't look at the camera all day. That's one example. Second example is being in multi-generational households, only smart only products don't work. You need some physical analog, a solution for those. So on our video doorbells, even though we can see it on the phone anywhere, we still providing a tablet. So grandparents, help at home are more comfortable using that. Those are the workarounds we've had to do to make sure it works in India, along with the fact that our built environments are different, which is non-trivial. Concrete everywhere, marble everywhere, these being connected Wi-Fi products, that was a huge challenge we had to solve for that. How do we make these products work seamlessly?
Other issues are also there. Like, you don't have like a seamless power connectivity, which also means that, like, even though you have power backup on the device, an experience that I've had is that every time the power comes back, it cannot maybe come back to, connect to the wireless seamlessly. If you have multiple Wi-Fi's at home, for instance. So how do you solve around these kind of things? Again, you need to think out of the box. You cannot bring in something that's working so well in the US and connect it into the Indian market, right?
I'm glad you're asking these next level questions. No, people don't ask, right? And I think that's one of the challenges. There's so many people, including the leading brands in India, who are simply in China, who are buying products which are meant for the US market and reselling in India, right? And not solving for what you're referring to, what we call corner cases, edge cases, right? The power surging up and down, Wi-Fi being different, right? Wireless not connecting easily. And the only answer to that is building products in India, testing them in different conditions, right? Delhi is different than Mumbai versus Chennai. The weather is different, the buildings are different. And then solving for them one by one. That's why it's so hard and so difficult and takes so much time to build hardware. And each product has a 18-month development cycle, 4-month testing cycle before you launch it. And then 3-4 months of, even if you plan, you think you've thought of everything, things going wrong. Just human error, error, all those things.
And again, even factors like weather is so different here, right? Like, as in it's different in different parts of the country. Like what works wonderfully well in Delhi cannot work in Kerala because it's so humid that your camera lens could get fogged up every morning. So things like that. Again, so also, how important is it to have this culture of having a hub for your smart devices in the home, right? And you have, maybe when we started 10 years ago, you were talking about a physical hub, but now maybe the smartphone is that hub. It connects all the devices. I have also seen use cases where maybe the TV becomes the hub because it's the center of the household. But in the Indian scenario, how are you thinking of the hub? Is the hub needed? And what happens when the hub has to connect to multiple devices from multiple companies, maybe following different standards of smartness and all of that. So how does that work?
I'm glad you're asking the question at the next level of detail. I mean, that's awesome. Look, I think we believe in a hubless world. Hub locks you into things. Hub makes life complex. So I think the way we've built our technology, our devices, is that each device is standalone. You bring it home, you scan a QR code, you're ready to go. But they talk to, as you add more devices, they talk seamlessly to each other. Each of them are Wi-Fi incorporated. They talk directly to the cloud, directly to the routers, and they'll talk to one app. So we kind of feel the architecture has to be hub now without a hub. But yes, your products should talk to each other, and that's normally through the app to get a unified experience. And I think you mentioned that earlier, right? That's what Qubo is trying to solve for. You could buy a lock from Yale today, a camera for CP Plus, a purifier from Xiaomi. Then you have the 3 apps. What we are trying to do is the whole home on one app. So all our products, locks, doorbells, cameras, and now we're launching air purifiers this month. All work on one app. You have a summary screen where you see the summary of your home all together. And then the products work beautifully together, right? So somebody calls, you see the doorbell, the same screen you can unlock. Things like that come. So we're doing, but you don't need a hub for that.
It's great you are doing it, but there are others who are doing it. Like for instance, Alexa. So is it important for you to be a part of that ecosystem also?
Absolutely. So I think we are not. So Alexa, Apple, Siri, Google Assistant, and their apps, they're the voice engine and the aggregators. So we work with all of them, right? So you can use Alexa or Google Assistant. You can tell your smart TV to show you a doorbell from Qubo. We'll do that. So we are backward integrated into all these ecosystems. But we want our products to talk to each other directly. So more features can be unlocked.
And it's a good segue to my next question, is that in a market like India, do you think a voice-controlled kind of an environment is what might actually trigger a lot of the adoption? Or will it be a little bit more old-fashioned?
I think, when I started this, I thought that's the voice is going to change everything. It's just an interface, right? It makes sense for some things, like, yeah, of course, I want to turn off my purifier. It's easy to use voice. But many of the other products, voice doesn't have a role. So I think the trigger is individual use cases. So I think I'm not in favor of this large smart home concept, buy everything together. I think what we are saying is, if you want to live without keys, here's a smart lock. And if you travel a lot, you want to see who's on your door, here's a doorbell. If you worry about security, here are cameras. But they talk to each other, right? And of course, you can use voice when it's relevant. But I don't think voice is the answer. It's the individual pain points which you solve for, and if people care about them, they buy the product. And if I may just add, I think we are past the point of just being smart. It's a question now of, if I'm building a home, I need to buy a lock. If a normal good-looking lock costs 5,000 and a smart lock is 8,000, with all these features, why not buy a smart lock? So it's more in that zone now of just being the replacement of the old product in a day life as usual versus something very different.
The other question I want to ask you is, like, let's say 10 years back, when I was first introduced to the concept of smart homes and all of that, there was also this vision of a utopia where things happened on their own, right? You are leaving office, your AC switched on at home, and you're coming to a super cool home and all of that. We don't see that happening, right? Or has this vision changed over time that it's not going to work like that? It's going to be a little bit more of manual intervention, and things are going to get better, but not like completely hands off.
I think all that is possible today. I'm not sure people really want. People want a level of control, right? So I think I think it's really down to, I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but it's down to solving individual use cases. Yeah. There's no grand, everything works on its own, right? Nobody wants it. People want to control. But some specific problems for me, make my life seamless, do it in a way I don't even notice it. It becomes part of my life.
Yes.
That's the answer. And the answer varies by person. So you can't force a full solution on someone.
Now, I guess a lot of these features are there, but people don't remember it's there. Like, people don't remember to activate it, or don't even want to go through the point of setting it up. Like, it's easier to not have it.
And people care about different things. In Delhi, some people care about the AC being, the air conditioner being, or the geyser being turned on in the morning. Right?
Yeah.
And the smart plugs, 750 rupee smart plug solves that, right? I don't want to deploy a home automation for that. Just buy a smart plug. So that's what we do.
Yeah. No, I remember a time when houses in Bangalore used to be sold for a premium because it's a completely automated home, and you don't see that anymore.
Huge multi-lakhs rupee solution, right? Yes. From these days, you can buy 5-6 individual products which pretty much do most of that for 50,000 rupees, right?
Yes,
But by the
yes,
bundle,
absolutely. Yeah. So before we wind up, Nikhil, one last question. What excites you the most in this space right now? Because, again, I'm looking at it from the context of India, like, how it's evolving in Indian market. What excites you the most?
I think I get excited when we do more and more new things. So for me, it's how can we change? How can we add more products? How can we make everything smarter? And then not just smarter, how do we really make life easier? So I think the smarts is the first part, but then solving for the key use cases, right? For example, now we're getting into appliances, air purifier, right? To your earlier point, I want my air purifier on when I'm close to my house, and I want it off when I leave.
Yeah.
Right? So it's things like that. It's just continuously adding more things to our Qubo ecosystem. It's all what keeps us exciting and just taking it to the world. I think the awareness for these products, the fact that these products exist, the fact that these products are so reliable and such low price points is still not well known. So I think that's the hard part, getting the message out there. But yeah, it's a very, very exciting road ahead for all of us in this space.
So I'm going to slip in one more question. I've heard from a lot of companies over the years that if you solve for the Indian market, you also solve for a lot of the world, right? Because a lot of the problems that we have in India, similar to what you have maybe in Latin America and Africa, in Middle East. So are you seeing that opportunity open up for Qubo?
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, other businesses in past lives have done that. I think the way I think we are solving for is at the price value equation, if I use that word, right? We're solving for it is awesome for emerging markets. So what works for India could work in Indonesia and Middle East, other places. But right now, I think India is such a huge market for us that there are a lot of challenges in scale to solve for here. So maybe in a year or two later, we'll do some pilots. But right now, I think it's about we only reached 20 towns in India meaningfully. There's 30 more I should.
So you have bigger things to do in India before you think about even bigger things.
It's massive. It's so big right now, and it's growing so fast and so exciting. So for us, we're laser focused on India for now.
So thanks for being on the show, Nikhil. You were listening to Nikhil Rajpal, who is CEO of Hero Electronix, which also has this new sub-brand called Qubo. Nikhil, thank you.
Thank you for that. Thanks for the time. Enjoy talking to you.
We'll be back again next week with another guest. Until then, we are available everywhere you listen to your podcast.